Hello, this is the non-dual lectionary for the second Sunday after Christmas, year A. And the gospel lesson for this Sunday is actually from John. It's the same as last year. So instead of doing another video on that same lesson, I'm going to put a link to that in the comments. But this Sunday also, a lot of churches will be instead shifting to Epiphany, which is on the calendar, it's 2 days later. But like I said, a lot of churches will do Epiphany on the Sunday because not so many people coming into church on Tuesday. And if you want to do an Epiphany lesson or a service, then you do it on the Sunday. So we'll read the lesson for this video for the Epiphany lesson. And it's from Matthew, as we're following Matthew this year, chapter 2. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star in the east and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the Magi and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen in the east, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. So there's three things I want to highlight in here, actually. The first is just the mythology of it. It's just, it's just rich with myth here. And I don't mean myth in any kind of pejorative. I mean just like, full of meaning with all this symbolism and everything. So, Magi from the east, and their question is, where's the child who's been born King of the Jews, right? And the star, the prophecy from that he would be born in Bethlehem. Later on, the star, the star had stopped overwards, and then the treasure chest, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And if you've been in church at all about these sorts of lessons, and the Magi at all, then you know about how myrrh was used to embalm, and so there's all this symbolism there about the gift at Jesus's birth is foreshadowing his death, all of this. And that's cool. This is just the context that we're in, right? This richly mythological story. And so then I want to draw kind of two things out of that mythology. And one of the things about myth, right, is it's heightened. Everything's exaggerated in a way to like really get the points home. And so there's two things I think jump out from taking, this kind of gleaning non-dual nuggets idea. And it's really kind of the flip sides of the same thing. It's the fear and the joy. And again, like this is the lesson right before last week's lesson. The last week's lesson actually picks up in the next verse from here, right? So it's kind of the same theme, but the idea that if we take the baby Jesus, the incarnation, right, as the idea of like, or as like the symbol, the mythological symbol of of spirit or the divine, or awakening in the world, right? The just richly symbolic, just right in front of you, concrete, here it is, right? Here's the truth, here's reality in form, like realized form right in front of us, right? And then we have the Magi and Herod and all of Jerusalem, it says, right, as sort of our exemplars of the human. And human here, I mean like the personal, the psychological self, the traditional self, the normal me's reaction to that, right? And the first is he was frightened and all Jerusalem with him, right? And want to find out what's going on here, right? When we can have this idea if you're, if you're in the spiritual seeking business, right? That like when spirit shows up through an experience, it's just all it's light and bliss, and but that's not true. And if you follow the path long enough, you will have those experiences, right? There's parts that are frightening, that are dark, that are disturbing, that are like, uh-oh, what's going on? Um, and so, here we have in this mythological story, right? Just the reaction is fear. The reaction is, no, I don't want that, right? Again, what is it bringing? It's bringing the end of self, right? So the self's reaction should be, oh no, and it's trying to force beyond that or trying to shove something past that just doesn't work. There has to be an awakening of something else. An awakening is a good word, right? Like something else that becomes more like that identity transplant idea, right? It becomes more operative than the self, not the self trying to get rid of itself. That doesn't work. So anyway, that's the first thing I want to highlight here, right? Is just like, yeah, when the non-dual also can have this like, oh yeah, it includes everything, right? But yeah, what it includes also is like the fear of the psychological self that doesn't have that recognition yet and reacts in this like way. And then the second, though, is this other side, right? And the Magi here to me exemplify like that seeker idea, right? They're going and looking, they're looking for the signs, and they're just like, oh, we found it, and they're overjoyed, right? And they're going to give gifts, and everything is great. But it's again in this great, rich with myth story. It's the extreme again, which is good because it exemplifies, another reaction we can have, right? Of like, oh, now everything's great. We found it. Everything's perfect. We don't have to do anything more. We're just gonna, give our gifts and pay homage, and here we go. And that also doesn't fully reflect, right, the full non-dual recognition, awakening, whatever you want to call it, because it leaves out the other side. So here I think what we've got in this short little story, right, are two really good examples of how the psychological self, the little me reacts, right, to the divine in the world, or this coming face to face with true nature, the fear side and the side and the like overjoyed side that like leaves out the too happy side in a way. Um, but like beautiful, right? Because all that's real, all that's past, all that is just, it's like that rich story of like, you can't miss it. Telling us like again just what the way the world is, the way reality is, in a way that even our little when it's in a story like that, right? Like even our little psyches hopefully can't miss, although we keep missing it, right?